without further ado, I'm going to paste the link to the notes in the chat one more time, just because latecomers don't actually see the chat that precedes them. So I'm going to do that now. But while I'm doing this, welcome everybody to the Piedmont Mobility Alliance's bi-monthly meeting. We're a coalition of agencies, groups, clubs, organizations, businesses who share a goal of being a better connected city city and county, and where people can ride a bike, walk outside their door, and have everyday access to nature. No more driving to go take a walk. So we're an organization of equals. We don't have a nonprofit status or anything. We're more like truly an alliance where we work together on shared goals. And there are a couple of implications of that. Number one is we run our meetings in this open format, not as a webinar. So everyone here is qualified to speak on any issue that we talk about. Feel free to contribute. And the other implication is that we operate by consensus, if at all possible. So we rarely have voting issues. If we ever do need to take a vote, there are rules about that, but I don't think we'll need to get into that. We have some preset topics that are incredibly, I think, exciting and interesting. And then we'll have just the usual round room updates, which are actually some of the most valuable piece. Before we start, though, I wanted to just give a couple of Mobility Alliance specific updates. The first is we're planning to have another active mobility social in the winter. This will be our third annual one, most likely at the end of February or beginning of March. And as in the previous two summits, that'll be an opportunity for us to develop a small but actionable collective work plan on a couple of specific topics. So for example, last year, there was a group that resolved to put on a professional level bike race in the center of Charlottesville. 2 years ago, a group came together to create a mobile bike repair clinic. And so these are things that we can't do alone, that we work together on and have an actionable result within a year. We also plan to have a panel discussion that would sort of serve the role of a keynote speaker that will be about how to increase equity in the outdoors and how to do better DEIJ work within our organization. We're seeking funding for a facilitator for that, and hopefully I'll have good news for you within the next, by the next meeting. One topic I wanted to toss your way, and this can just be a consensus decision, is that last year we gave away an award for outstanding achievement, and we're going to do that again. But I wanted to modify that a little bit. What I would suggest doing is that instead of giving an award for outstanding, progress or achievements in developing greenways or connectivity, that we give a couple of those. There's no downside to giving more than one award, and there are multiple benefits to doing numerous ones. I will send out a nomination form. We've got plenty of time. We'll do that around the as part of the summit. But with your unanimous consent or your consensus, I'd like to position this as, let's give out a couple of awards, and we, if we're so blessed to have so many achievements that we don't award them all, we can talk about that as a group. Does that all sound reasonable? Excellent. So hearing no objections, we're going to consider that a green light. Okay, so I wanted to start the meeting with just a follow-up about the Charlottesville Schools walk zone expansion. I was hoping that Kim would make it to the meeting.
Hi, Peter. I'm Amanda. I'm Kim's colleague. I'm here in her stead.
Hey, Amanda, great to see you. I did see your SVP and I didn't want to volunteer you to speak, but if you could give us a couple of updates from your perspective of how it went, how it's going, and what we can do further to help you.
Great. Yeah, we were really we've seen a lot of great community energy coming together around this. And for anybody who's not familiar, we expanded our walk zones, so we have a lot more students walking to school, biking, scootering, taking alternative transportation to school this year. So far, we've had a lot of success stories. I hope that you've seen more students out on the streets. Some of the updates that a lot of the planning that has happened in advance of this was, the city making improvements to dozens of intersections that you've probably seen in a quick build kind of way, with signage and repainted sidewalks and pedestrian leading intervals and things like that to make them safer in a short-term way for students. We had a lot of community members and Charlottesville Schools staff have been out every morning and afternoon with the students. Some of that is just beginning of the school, helping students make a good start to school, and some of that is staffing we plan to continue throughout the year with particularly walking some of our younger students to their elementaries. So we're seeing and hearing good things. We're also seeing more students using CAT transit. Those are older students who are doing that, so a lot of positive feedback. Certainly more improvements to be made, and certainly feedback welcome, but we also haven't had any inclement weather. School started last Wednesday, so certainly that will be another test to this new transformation that we're working on, but we think we're prepared for that as well, and we're ready to respond as needed. So that's a quick update, but happy to answer specific questions, or and I will put my email. I'll put our walk zone email in the chat if anyone has anything particular to that they want to share.
I have something to share real quick, and I can't believe I calendared this event, and a woman in my neighborhood while I was weeding my plants walked by with, I guess, 7-month pregnancy and her 5-year-old walking from 18th Street. It's about 2 miles up and down steep hills. So I started walking with her. And I was like, what happened? How come you don't have a ride? And so anyway, she explained that she doesn't have enough money for Uber even. She hopes, this was her last statement to me, that she hopes that she can get some money or get paid today for Uber, which means that she's probably going to use that instead of food. I don't know what. Her child was very well dressed. I mean, she looked very like, a great mom. And anyway, I instructed her after I walked her halfway, and I hardly could get up the hills myself. I can't imagine having a 8-month baby. Anyway, so those are the issues. It's the reality of Willem Mills is walkable is not possible to go to Burley Moran, especially, I mean, we usually have ice. So I suggested also, I emailed Lloyd Snook and everybody, to get the military, pay them $30 an hour to do this. Like the military moms, Tanya King knows all about them, families, that they could use $30 an hour and then get the money from the federal government because of attendance. Okay, that's all I know. Sorry, but this is like crazy that you know, it happened today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. And I'll just,
Yes.
I'll briefly respond and hope that that family is in touch with Burley Moran, since certainly that 2 miles is way outside of our walk zone. But we also have folks who should be riding the bus that are still on the wait list for the bus, and that we're hoping to be able to make another expansion of put people on some more routes pretty soon. But yes, the ongoing driver shortages is creating issues, but we have a lot of parents who would want a lot of resources that we want to help people in that situation. So I hope that mom reached out. Thanks, Robin.
Hey, Amanda, it looks like you're muted, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I saw that Stephen had his hand raised, but I'm not sure if I'm supposed to give him the floor or not. I'm happy to cede the floor back to you, Peter.
Nope, absolutely. Feel free. Yeah, go ahead, Stephen.
Great. Thank you. I'll even lower my hand and make that easier for somebody. So
I appreciate the respect of raising your hand, by the way. That's a good thing.
Thank you, Peter. So just want to say, Amanda, how like from my perspective that it's too bad that it's taken a crisis like this to finally get any kind of build and any kind of attention. And I've just seen little things like that cars are more likely to stop at the entrance to where I am to the entrance to Buford, because now there's like some little signs, and that's a 24-hour a day kind of improvement when I walk by. Likewise, there's now I can't remember the technical term, leading pedestrian intervals, I think it is, right? At the intersection right there. Again, that's a 24-hour day, not just school time. Great improvement, you know, little things that make great improvements. My question is, like, where is the pressure point? What is the best way we can advocate for things that move from, you know, to even more permanent next set of builds, you know, whether that's planters, whether, you know, we can start painting some intersections, do other traffic calming things. Like, what do you recommend in terms of for people that really want to support this any way possible? How can we best support this?
I see Kim Powell has joined the call, so I'll invite her to jump in on this as well.
Well, Amanda did such a great job with the opening. I don't know that I'll do any better, but so yes, we've opened schools and we've gotten over that hump of sorts, but there's a lot of work remaining. And we do have a weekly Safe Routes meeting now with Brennan Duncan and Kyle Rodlin, which I don't know if Kyle's on this call, but and we've got that running list that's on our website. And so I think the best way to keep it going is just continuing to monitor what's on the list that they've acknowledged and scheduled. And then when you see something or recognize something that's not on the list that you think, you know, needs to rise to that level of being scheduled, then you can email walkzones@charlottesvilleschools.com. There's a bunch of us that get those messages. And that's where I've been taking feedback and looking at things and putting that into, we have something called a requested category that doesn't pull, that doesn't show forward, you know, on the website, but that's because it gives us a space to talk about that at the weekly meetings and kind of keep it on the table. And so, you know, that's how the process, I guess, is working behind the scenes. And so I think that's the key, is that we keep that process going and that folks are looking at what's coming forward as being scheduled. Now, scheduled sometimes means, I'll give you an example, and I think the notes pull through on the website too, like Rugby and Rose Hill, that intersection, we went from that temporary traffic light on the wire to the four-way stop because we really do think that's a safer condition for students, and we have a crossing guard there. Fire has been there this week, kind of more in an observing mode from what I can tell when I drive through there after I do my duty post on Rose Hill. But you know, we know that next year the city's committed to, that's going to be a fully signalized with the really nice crossing and audible stuff, you know, so that's coming, but we know we won't have that this year. So that's the process that we're using, and our plan is to keep it going. So, and Yeah, and regarding the comment that was made earlier about the family that's walking a great distance, as I've been mainly driving and trying to observe, what's going on. I mean, we do have these concerns and we're trying to deal with each one on a case-by-case basis. A lot of our best solutions have been the CAT for some of the longer walks that families are facing, and that's free for the students, at least, for sure. And I think, are the adults still free on CAT? I know students are, yeah. So I'm really hopeful this is going to be not only a boost for pedestrian infrastructure, but a shot in the arm for CAT to build out that and improve that system as well. But we're actively working our wait lists, and again, as Amanda said, please, families just need to let the schools know what their real needs are, and we're doing the best we can to try to plug those holes. It's very much a situation like we were in much of last year. Our next major set of bus routes is anticipated to be released in October, when we hopefully will have 4 more drivers coming on board, which, when you consider that we started this year with 6, 7, that's a big percentage increase. So that should make a big dent in our wait list, for especially for our highest needs families.
Thank you for both of those. So when you were here back in June, you mentioned helping with advocacy, and we want to keep doing that as well. But you also actually suggested that people sign up to be crossing guards, and a few people, in fact, did do that. Are you still looking for help of that kind as well?
So we have had really great success. And one of the main reasons I wanted to join today is to say thank you to all of you. It truly took the village to pull this off to the extent that we have. And I'm not going to say everything is perfect and that we don't still have families who we need to help them find solutions. But for a lot has been accomplished. And my colleague Beth Chuck keeps reminding me we need to take a minute and focus on the accomplishments before we just keep focusing on the issues and what we have to resolve. I know that's true. But crossing guards at this moment, we have all of our spots filled. And I think we have a few subs in reserve. However, that said, we still feel free to encourage people to apply, because we know from experience that sometimes folks will do this and then 3 months later, their circumstances change. They want something more full-time or whatever. So it's really good for us to have that steady supply of people who have that interest. And we also are still taking feedback about, where there are areas of concern. So something might come up at this point when someone tells us about an area of concern. We're trying to make sure we have staff go out and observe that situation during the times in question to make sure we understand what the problem is, and then see what the best solution is from a manpower, if the solution is to deploy people there. So we definitely want folks to keep applying and expressing interest, because we never know when our circumstances will change, and we know they will.
Awesome. Any other questions for Amanda or Kim?
I have one additional offer or request, which is if you have seen around town yellow signs that say "Go slow, Seville kids walk to school." If you have a spot where you would like to put one of those, you can swing by our Kim and my office, which is the division office next to Walker Elementary. Pick up a sign and put it in a place that you think drivers would benefit from seeing that message. We still have about a dozen signs left. Thanks.
So you used to be able to get those at the neighborhood schools. Is it now they should go to the district office for them?
Great question, Peter. Some of the neighborhood schools still have some, and some have run out. I am just aware that I have 12 sitting in outside of the office, but probably some of this, they're available at some of the schools too. So you can call your school. Thanks.
Yeah, definitely do that. Don't move them around on your own initiative. All right. So anything else before we move on? I said this last time, but I'll say it again, that Kim and Amanda, you're in prime time, and I so appreciate you taking the time to to be here. We'd love for you to hang out. We also understand if you have other emergencies to go deal with. So thank you. So I see Ali Hill is on the call. The next two topics are both Rivanna Trails Foundation related. And Ali, if it's okay with you, I would propose flipping the two and talking about the 3 Notch Trail, because I see that that Jessica's here from Albemarle County, and we have no idea how long she could stay. So is it okay with you if we start by talking about the 3 Notch Trail and then do Live DeVille after?
Perfect.
Okay, awesome. So what news do we have about the 3 Notch Trail since the last time we talked? Ali or Jessica, you can take it from here.
Jessica, why don't you take this one?
Okay, so with the Rivanna Trail Foundation and Allie and Tommy's help, we were able to submit a successful RAISE grant application for planning funds to do like an alternatives analysis, potential routes for the 3 Notch Trail, like a shared use path separated from motor vehicle traffic, bike and pedestrian facility that would extend from the city of Charlottesville through Crozet out to the western end of Albemarle County into Nelson County at the Blue Ridge Tunnel in Afton. So we will receive $2 million from the federal government to complete this planning project. We're really excited about it. We're still learning the whole timeline and the process of how this will work, but we will start working on that as we learn more. Allie, is there anything you wanted to add about things you're looking forward to for this funding?
Oh, goodness. I think I have to kind of quell my excitement because it's going to be a multi-year process, and people are asking how they can help. And I don't think there's a whole lot to do with this short term. Is that correct, Jessica?
That's right. Yeah, we're still learning how we will get that money in our hands to actually start using it. But just to clarify to everyone, this is planning funding. Nothing will be constructed with this funding. And we're going to be relying heavily on technical consultants to help us do the hard work of figuring out that most feasible path for this shared use path to follow.
One of the things we've talked about doing, and I'm not sure this was discussed before the announcement of the grant award came in, but we've talked about going to the Capitol Trail with some city council, Albemarle County Board of Supervisors, or any staff of the city and county who might be interested in doing a tour of a stretch of the Capitol Trail, whether it's on electric bikes or on driving beside on Route 5 beside the trail in a van, and stopping and talking to the director of the Capitol Trail to have her talk about the economic impact and commuters and so forth. We've got some funding to pay for that, and so we're working with Jessica to see if that's something that we'd want to try to do this October. So that would be really fun for staff to get on board and kind of see this in what it looks like in reality, what a trail could look like, an identical trail. Hopefully get them excited. So
I'm really glad.
Nope, that's
Sorry.
it.
I'm glad you raised that, Ellie, because I meant to tell the group about that. So actually, the director of the Capitol Trail is coming to Charlottesville for a meeting on the 8th, September 8th, not October. And if several of you are interested in talking to her, we could spend like an hour with her hearing about their lessons learned and talking about the RAISE grant. They were very, I don't know if you could say instrumental, but they supported the application, and it was important that they helped us out. And also we could talk through this idea about a board or advocates visit to the Capitol Trail. So I'll be sending out information about that, but you can pencil it on your calendar for September 8th at around 5 p.m. probably we'll just meet her at the Wegmans Cafe or some outdoor spot. Jessica, I did have one additional question, and so I understand that the application was to do sort of multiple layers or levels of depth of planning. Is that still the case? Would there be sort of a alignment study and then more intense research on specific pieces? Is that still the plan?
Yeah, so there are four main planning activities that we want to accomplish with this funding. So the first is the alternatives analysis. So looking at the feasibility of a couple of different routes for the path to take along that general trajectory that we just talked about. Then we would want to, I'm trying to remember exactly how we broke it up, but basically we're starting with that alternatives analysis. Then we're going to determine a preferred alignment with the help of the public and stakeholders. And then from there, we would try to break up pieces of that overall 25-mile path into smaller pieces that we can fund with a variety of different funding options. Most of them, ones we're more familiar with that come from the state. So yeah, big picture, preferred alignment, and then how do we fund smaller pieces that will be useful all on their own.
Awesome. So we don't know how people could get involved, but we know that when we do know how people can get involved, Allie's done such an amazing job at communicating out into the community, and I'm sure you'll be back in touch with more ways, correct?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Jessica. That's amazing. I mean, I won't say that we're surprised, but it was quite a big deal. It was a very competitive application, and if you look at some of the activities that are also being done with RAISE grants, it's pretty amazing. And thank you, County, for doing this.
Well, I'll just jump in, Peter, and say you can say surprised. We were very surprised and happy about it. And like you were saying, Peter, do take a look at the other projects within Virginia that have been funded. There are a lot of really great bike ped projects, and our eventual construction of a 3-notch trail will fit into a much bigger picture for biking and walking in Virginia.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for Jessica or for Allie? Well, Allie, you're representing two things that we're incredibly excited about right now. Tell us about the Loop de Ville.
So this is, I'd love to send out to this link, this flyer. Sorry, to the people who are on this call and to people in this group to please share with your networks on electronic media or newsletters. We also have plenty of these beautiful print posters that we can drop off to you. If you guys can email me, I will figure out a way to get these for stores or for businesses or office break rooms. September 24th and 25th is the Trail Fest of the Loop de Ville. It is going to be celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Ravenna Trail. I can't believe it's been 30 years, and we now have 27-ish miles, 20 miles a main loop around the city, and about 7 miles plus or minus, depending with construction at the time and whatnot, of River North. And this weekend is going to be also National Public Lands Day, which is kind of exciting. And we've got guided bike rides and hikes and runs around the trail, and everything is free. The food and beverage at the end is, of course, if you want to pay for it. But we have a registration and lots of volunteers are needed. So if you guys know some sections of the Ravenna Trail, or you want to learn some sections to help us guide trips, please let us know. If you go to the ravennatrails.org website, you'll find registration information. details about the different events all on Saturday and all on Sunday. And you can also find an email there to reach out to us to say, I offer to help. Or one of the big things that we need is in advance is some trail clearing. We need the all hands on deck. Someone grab your clippers, grab a bag in case there's some trash on the trail. We want to make the trail look amazing and not be turning people off. So we are working on adding more signage. We're adding new kiosks, maps in the kiosks and all of that before then. It's really nice to have a date so we can put all these hands on deck and be done by a certain time period. Let's hope the weather is great, because at this point we don't have a rain backup date. But if anyone has questions, let me know. I'll put my email in the chat if you want to email me directly, and I can get you some posters. We're also going to be selling these posters for $5 a piece, possibly at High Tour, starting in the next couple of days. We will have some t-shirts for sale with a similar colored logo. But I think it's going to be a huge event, and we're super excited to host and to hopefully see you all there. So, any questions? Peter, how can I get that flyer to this group? Do I send it to you and then you share it with everyone?
Well, so actually, I'm planning to send a advocacy alert probably on Monday that is only about the Loop de Ville, and I was already going to attach this PDF to that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we also, the Mobility Alliance has a like a spreadsheet of all the places we found to hang up flyers, so you can take a look at that and you know, sign up for a couple of those. Happily, I've been seeing those flyers around already, so that it's good. Allie, if you wouldn't mind also put in the link that's that rivanatrails.org/loop-de-ville or whatever that link is. Put that in the chat too.
I will do.
Come
on out, you guys. Love to see you there. Okay. I do want to mention one other thing.
Did you mention the birthday party, Allie?
I didn't. The 30th anniversary, we are going to have cake on Sunday. We're going to have a big cake, and we're inviting trail adopters and land managers and people who've supported the Rivanna Trail for the last 30 years to come and eat cake. And the Woolen Mills Selvage Brewing is making a special Loop de Ville beer for the event. So we hope to be able to share some beer with people at the same time. Beer and cake. All right. I do want to say that if somebody wants to go to the Rivanna Trail and they are not familiar with it, if you go to our website, rivanatrails.org, and you click on the Maps section, you can pull up in your Google Maps on your phone the trail itself. And there's a way to push a tab where you will see yourself as a blue dot. So as the satellites or the GPS tracks you, you can see where you are in relation to the Rivanna Trail. So if you get confused at a road connection or whatnot, and you're not sure where to go, pull up your phone, pull up the map, and you can see where to go and you won't get lost.
And the kiosks connect people to that too, correct? The ones that have the maps.
And we're getting new maps in the next few weeks, so they will be brighter and beautiful and more up to date. Thanks, Peter.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Great. Stephen is here from Livable Seaville. They also have 2 updates to share. You want to go ahead, Stephen?
Yeah, sure. Great. So thank you so much for the opportunity for the update. I just dropped in the chat a link to our first newsletter. So if anybody's interested, I'm going to present some of the information from there. First of all, just want to, for people who aren't familiar with Livable Seaville, we're an all volunteer local organization focused on Charlottesville and Albemarle County, advocating for policies to build an inclusive Charlottesville area with affordable housing, sustainable transportation, and healthy neighborhoods welcoming to all. So we're taking a very holistic viewpoint of how do we create a community where more people can live closer together in ways that then support mass transit, support walkable, bikeable communities. So that's the thread and kind of the connection here. The first update is we've been doing a series of webinars, and this will be our fourth one coming up tomorrow at 5:30 with the idea of just helping to educate people about issues related to zoning. And so we have one about the cost of free parking, and we've had things about other aspects of zoning. This one tomorrow is the very kind of most specific to the Seville Plans Together process. And I think it's very timely in that the city is recently kind of released the next phase of documents, and kind of we now have I believe it's about another 10 days or so of a public an opportunity for public to give feedback on those. So we've been working with Click and some other folks to kind of get messaging around what kind of feedback we might get. This particular webinar is an opportunity to hear from James Fries, who is the person within the city of Charlottesville who is overseeing that whole process. So big picture, we're in the middle of a multi-year process that is now closing in on the actual draft language that will update the zoning code itself. So we're moving from things like the comprehensive plan, affordable housing plan, transportation plan that's part of that, now down to the actual thing that will actually become the new set of regulations. So I'll pause just to see if there's any questions or anybody wants to amplify anything about what that zoning process is.
Didn't the consulting team just do a webinar or YouTube thing on what they're talking about with their zoning intentions?
There's been a number of events that the Seville Plans Together folks have done. So yeah, they've definitely also been doing, education around what they're doing. Right now, one of the things that has most recently come out, which I imagine there's going to be a lot of questions about at the webinar, is the inclusionary zoning analysis. And that works along with the zoning diagnostic and approach report. But that's where they've actually now started penciling out types of projects to see for the inclusionary zoning updates, which the inclusionary zoning is the idea that if you include in multi-unit housing, if you include units that are affordable, and there's different ways of defining affordability, that you might get bonuses, density bonuses, it might be height bonuses, it might be setback bonuses, like there's different types of bonuses. So I think that certainly one of the points of discussion is going to be, are those bonuses aggressive enough? Could they be more aggressive? And part of that inclusionary zoning analysis determined, basically that it's a pretty small number of projects that would be impacted by that. And so part of our advocacy is to try to make those things more generous or more economically feasible. And again, this is land use, which is not directly related to mobility, but it's indirectly very closely related in that to make things like high frequency bus routes, to support better sidewalk infrastructure, to support protected bike lanes, right? We need more people who live closer to where they work and to where their kids are in school to be able to really support all of that. So that's what I just want to draw as a connection point to that. So Peter, would you like me to move to the next one?
Yeah, let's hear the next one.
Great.
That's very bike related.
Yes, very bike related. So now we go from big picture to very bike related. Josh Karp, I see, is also on the call. So if he wants to chime in at all, this is really his brainchild. So the e-bike demo day. So we have one coming up that we have scheduled tentatively, but almost certainly for October 16th. Most likely we'll be at Mead Park from 2 to 4, but we're still nailing down those logistics. We had an earlier version of this that was very well attended with very little advertising or marketing. And so we're wanting to do another one. Josh, do you want to talk about that a little?
Yeah, so I don't know if you all are familiar with the concept of the e-bike smile, but the idea is that e-bikes are kind of hard to describe in the abstract, and then when you try one, in many cases, there's a recognition that's hard to convey with words that, oh, this is fun and useful, and I can do this every day. It works on kids also when they go on the back of the bikes, by the way. And so the idea here is that we want people to have a chance to try, ideally, a big range of bikes, realize it's fun, it's practical, and figure out what they might want to get for themselves, which hopefully is not nothing. So like Stephen said, we're trying to do a more professionally run thing and not the last minute thing I tried last time, which was surprisingly good. So we're hoping to have more bikes to try, a bigger variety, more people. And we are tying in with the e-bike library. So a few of the bikes that will come to the demo event, people can sign up to borrow for a couple of days or a week to, you know, try out their commutes and see if they actually would want to buy one of them or something like them. I think we had great turnout from people who already care about e-bikes last time. And what I especially want to ask for help with for this next event is people who might like e-bikes if they tried them, but don't really think about the concept at all, which I think is a lot of people actually. So I think our biggest ask is going to be help with outreach for people who aren't already part of, you know, e-bike Twitter. But yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope to see some of you there.
And so just a couple other things. We're also most likely, we don't have the logistics nailed down yet because we need to figure out the format. But we're planning on doing a webinar most likely about a week before that event. So sometime in early October, just on the topic of e-bikes. So again, we would love to have, you know, collaborate with other organizations, other individuals. Like I said, we are totally volunteer run here. So we, you know, this is just a passion project for all of us. To make this happen and can definitely use help. Also just want to say, like, everybody here on the call would love to see you and people, you know, for those of you who are working in organizations full time, you know, would love to have members of organizations that are advocacy organizations. This is an opportunity to come out, educate yourself more about e-bikes, to be able to also you know, see how they might interact with your organization's missions. E-bikes are very climate friendly. They're very family friendly. And I think, you know, that they, for me personally, I've got one right behind me, right? It's much more of a car replacement than it is, say, something that you would get into recreationally, which is, I think, what most people have that initial mindset around bikes, which is great. We want to encourage people to recreationally bike, but e-bikes are really a category that open up the biking experience to a lot of other people and an opportunity to replace car rides. So if anybody's interested, I will drop my email in the chat. Just reach out to Josh or I, and we'd love to get your help. Like Josh said, advertising. If you know people that have e-bikes, let us know. We'll connect. We do need to match up people willing to demo their e-bikes with people interested in e-bikes.
Very good. So be sure to sort of put like a boilerplate or something in the notes that we can all use in our publicity, so folks get the nuance right. Terrific. I have two quick updates for the room. One is that a number of members of this group have been working together to get the Tonsler Trail open, and we have an actual opening celebration date that's so exciting. I don't know if there'll be a ribbon, but there'll be something to cut. Hopefully Carmelita will bring a machete, forget the scissors. And so the Tonsler Trail will be opening on October 1st. Of course, it's already open, but this will be a community celebration and a deadline for us to get some of the signage installed and the mulching finished and all that. 11:30, October 1st in Tonsler Park. And the neighborhood association, the Fifeville Neighborhood Association, is also having a block party that day at 12 o'clock. So you'll be able to go to and celebrate the trail, then celebrate the neighborhood at the community block party, which will be just short, a few steps away. Secondly, I wanted to let the group know that PC has received a grant from the Jean Ann Foundation to work with Albemarle County and Habitat to expedite a connection to Biscuit Run Park and Southwood. We're going to have our first leadership meeting about that in about 3 weeks. And we're super excited about that, and there will be some community events related to that. The timeline for the grant is to hopefully deliver something actionable by the county in terms of like engineering. If here's how you can make that connection, trail connection plus a bridge into Biscuit Run Park around January or February. And if everything breaks exactly right, we could potentially have something in place for when the park actually opens next fall. So stay tuned about that. I don't know if Tim Pedalino is on the call. He isn't, but he's the lead from the county. I'll certainly have more information for you all in time for the next meeting. And lastly, before going to round room updates, we always have a follow-up and check-in with the action teams from the previous mobility summit. I don't see Ethan Gruber on the call right now. Is there anyone that's working on the Charlottesville Criterium and Bike Fest that could share any updates about that? Okay, not hearing that. If it comes up in the round room, that's good. I did also want to hope that, Stephen, we can do a better job of having more of a, at next year's Bike Fest, have more of a touch a bike element than we had last year. I think that'd be a great opportunity for people to try out e-bikes. There were reasons why it didn't happen last year, and now we have a whole year to plan it. Let's do a good job with that this year. Okay, so now is actually the favorite time of the meeting where we go around the room and share updates that our various organizations are working on. And as I say, it's an open room, everybody's equal. Please raise your hand and then I'll call upon you. But if I may take the prerogative of calling the first guest, I see Lucinda is here from the TJPDC. And I take this prerogative only to acknowledge that none of this would be happening if it were not for the TJPDC also getting this whole like working together thing going. Not to put you on the spot or anything. Now I don't see Lucinda. Lucinda, or
yeah,
are you still on the call?
I'm here.
Okay. Oh, your hand was raised, so I didn't. You dropped to the top of the list. So yeah, what have you got for us?
Well, thanks, Peter. This is such great news about all the trails happening. It's really nice to hear. I think mostly we're just wrapping up the transit vision plan. We had a really good round of public outreach. We did a transit center event and got over 75 surveys from transit riders. We were at the Soul of Seaville and talked with over 100 people getting feedback on the vision plan. We had a couple meetings with the Jedi Youth ambassadors from FAR and 3C and did a little work with them to help them with one of their surveys. And we've done a bunch of focus groups as well. We've kind of just been out in the community targeting populations that we heard we needed to speak with. So we're in the final phase. I put it in the notes, in the meeting notes. I'll put it in the messages too. Our final phase of public outreach is going to be wrapping up on September 16th. So if anybody wants to take the survey, now's your chance. And if you have any other comments or questions, the draft visions are up on the website. I'll put a link to that in the chat too. And so next step with that is we're going to start a governance study, which is going to have more engagement with stakeholders in the region, talking with elected officials and county and city staff. And this will be kind of how do we pay for the transit vision plan. So that should take about a year to complete, well, 18 months, a little over a year. And then we'll be looking for support to enact something that will enable us to have dedicated funding for transit. And that will include infrastructure to support transit as well. So it'll be pedestrian and bike as well.
Super. Any other updates to share, Lucinda?
You know, there's so much going on, and I just can't think of any others at the moment.
Mm-hmm. So I have a TJPDC related one that I'll interject. So historically, ever since I created the regional bike ped plan together, TJPDC facilitated a city, county, UVA, VDOT collective bicycle pedestrian planning info sharing meeting. Those have been on hiatus during the summer, but they'll be starting back up in September. And they're actually interested in having public participation and public comment. So I'll be sharing information about that meeting. It should be in like the middle of September, so watch your email for that. I see Peter Thompson raised his hand, and I'm so excited because I was thinking of actually calling on you. Peter, what have you got?
First of all, hi, everybody. Peter Thompson with the Center in Belvedere and here representing the Charlottesville Area Alliance. I'm sorry, I have technical difficulty preventing my video. But Lucinda, can you touch a little more on the governance study at the Regional Transit Partnership and the discussion that we had, because as a member of the CAA, I'm a non-voting member at the RTP. And last week we were talking about how that governance study might focus solely on transit. And there was discussion of how broader mobility issues should be considered. Can you touch on that for us a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So at the Regional Transit Partnership meeting, we had a guest speaker from the Central Virginia Transportation Authority, which has started about 2 years ago. The Regional Transit Vision Plan recommended that we look at how they fund their transportation authority, which is through sales tax and gas tax revenue. And they estimated that if we did something similar to what GRTCTA does, that we would add an additional almost $30 million a year for dedicated to transit funding. So the TJPDC, designed the governance study to look at that, and it was kind of on the recommendation of the vision study, which is for transit. However, there is interest in the community at Central Virginia's authority is a transportation authority, and most of the authorities are transportation. And having a transportation authority would allow us to, as a community, to fund, road projects as well. However, when we looked at, what we were going to look at, we decided to limit it to transit only because $30 million is not a lot of money for any kind of a road project. And if you started trying to do road projects with that money, you wouldn't really get very much. And it would take a lot away from transit, which is what we had wanted to work on funding. So currently the study is focused on transit. In the Regional Transit Partnership meeting, there was some discussion of people wanting to expand it to transportation. And that's something that we could look at. It might change our scope of work for the study. But if that's what the community wants, we can do that. It just kind of wasn't really recommended because of the small amount of revenue that we would be collecting.
Yeah, I think if I could just add, I did as a representative, again, of the Charlottesville Area Alliance, reminded the city of Charlottesville and Albemarle County representatives that they are signed off on the AARP World Health Organization age-friendly dimensions. We are part of that network. Formally, the city and county elected officials had to sign off on that and vote for that. But it was done before most of the current, certainly more than any of the current city council members were involved. And that the transportation dimension is not just transit, that it is all ideas of mobility. So that point was made, and I didn't carry the day because, again, their scope was already done, as Lucinda said. But I think there was enough other conversation that once the contract with the consultant to do that governance study is done, that the idea of at least considering the broader needs were considered, and the kind of stakeholder questions and focus groups and whatnot would be done. So I'll continue to try and do my best to keep that on the agenda. I know there's often PEC representatives at that meeting, but a lot is happening at the RTP right now, and then really we'll need a lot of monitoring on all our parts as much as possible for the next year or two to try to keep the issues that we all talk about at PMA at the attention of those folks. So thank you, Lucinda, for that. Thanks, Peter, for the time.
So this study is not going to have as much public engagement. It's going to have more stakeholder engagement because it's looking kind of at state level politics and funding and taxation. So if you want to make a change, let me hear from people earlier in the process rather than later. And just let us know. We're going to have a stakeholder, like a steering committee, which will be made up of the local jurisdictions, and the governing body that will be approving the final plan is going to be the TJPDC Commission. It's funded through DRPT, Albemarle County, and the City of Charlottesville, and the TJPDC. So it's a commission thing. And, I guess commenting at the RTP meeting or sending me emails would be the best way to have input into the study.
You may not know the answer to this, but would the steering committee have noticed public meetings that would have public comment and then?
So they're going to be open to the public, and I can if you send me a request, I can put you on the list for the distribution list for those meetings so that you'll know when they are. And I can also put them, I guess I could put them on the RTP page or something like that as well, on the TJPDC calendar.
Awesome. Well, I love sharing meeting announcements, so absolutely
Okay.
sign me up. And,
All right.
I do wonder if there's like a safe routes to transit analog, like there would be to, there is the safe routes to parks thing. There's obviously a safe routes to school thing, but I won't say last mile, but certainly access to transit from a physical perspective is crucial.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any other, anybody else have updates? Sure, I have a few people I could call on if you don't volunteer. And I know it's rough that like many of you might be eating lunch, and that's the price we pay for having a noon meeting, but let's hear it. What have you got? Kim.
Hey, I'm not on well, I'm on the Places 29 Hydraulic Citizen Advisory Committee, which is a county committee that's in the northern part of the Places 29 area. And we're kind of only focused in the hydraulic area from the inside of the hydraulic ring around up to the 29 to 29. And so our group met in August, and I had been asked to give a presentation about a little portion of sidewalk that we would like the county to consider fast tracking to get completed along Greenbrier, as you walk along Commonwealth and then turn on to Greenbrier heading towards the Charlotte Humphreys Park, which is the county's only little pocket park. There's just a little portion of the sidewalk that's never been completed, and so we're as a committee, the county has asked us to write a letter essentially and make a formal request that they look at completing this section. Now there is a bigger Commonwealth Drive sidewalk project that's under, well, the design is underway, but it may be years before it's ever done. So we're hoping the county might move this up a little bit, and because I think it's a good complement to some of the sidewalk work that's going on right now on the Albemarle County campus, which is a Safe Routes to School project has already gotten underway. And in the county, we also have the same sorts of busing problems. So the walk zone has been extended, and so this little section would be part of the walk zone for kids, at least onto the Albemarle High School campus. So anyway, that is what we're doing in this little section of the county.
Yeah, and Kim says that's a little sidewalk with a high impact. She isn't kidding. What it's something like 100 feet or maybe less, and it connects this park, and it connects hydraulic to multiple schools. This is a high impact for a small thing. Kim, is there assistance that you need for that, like letters of support or anything like that?
Well, we haven't officially submitted the letter to the county personnel, so that's a work in progress. If anybody uses this area for their own walking or commuting, or their kids use this area, certainly you can reach out to your board of supervisor. It's either Diantha McKeel in the Jack Jewett district or Ned Galloway in the Rio district. There's an overlap between our districts that actually make up this citizen committee. So anyway, even if you're not living in Albemarle County, but maybe you work and walk in this area, feel free to reach out to a board of supervisor
and voice your support for this tiny, tiny, tiny little piece of sidewalk to get completed. That would be appreciated.
Excellent. Thank you, Kim. Ethan raised his hand. What do you have, Ethan?
Hey, thanks, Peter. I am a new attendee of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee for the city. And so one of the things that we're working on tackling is snow routes and snow plowing priorities and sidewalk clearing priorities and things like that. I don't know that anybody else on the committee is here, but I'll stick my email in the, oh, sure, Peter. I'll stick my email in the chat. If anybody has strong opinions about any of that stuff or would like to join that conversation, we'd welcome the help. I mean, one of the things that we're thinking about is, you know, the Safe Routes to School program kind of makes a lot of sense, but in thinking about a winter weather emergency, maybe Safe Routes to School aren't the first things to get done, and maybe it's more like safe routes to grocery stores and safe routes to pharmacies and safe routes to transit stations and things like that. So I am relatively new to all of this and learning a lot, but I'm sure there are folks with some really good stuff here. So I'll stick my email in there. Feel free to reach out if you're interested in being part of that or have a personal experience about a particular spot in town that you know is troublesome in winter. Thanks.
Thanks, Ethan. And as I pointed out in the chat, BPAC is meeting on Thursday. So day after tomorrow, it's open to the public. There is a link to the Zoom meeting for that in the meeting notes. Josh.
Hi, I just wanted to take a minute and give a few more updates about the e-bike lending library, which now has a second bike and a website. So I feel like it's kind of a real organization, maybe. The second bike is a cargo bike, and we have both seating for a big kid or two small kids, if people want to try that. So I'm hoping we can help out a little bit with SRTS stuff with parents who want to try biking their kids to school. I'm really happy to see people in the chat here have bought bikes after borrowing one of ours or gotten friends to buy them. That's really exciting to hear. And one thing I wanted to mention is that we, like I mentioned earlier in this call, I think we've had good luck with outreach to people who are already thinking about getting an e-bike and want to pick one. But I also want to convince people who don't think about e-bikes that it's a good idea for them to try one. And so we are starting to do events at workplaces. We have one coming up in a few weeks at Willow Tree. I'm talking to S&P. And the idea is that we'll bring over some bikes at lunchtime or at the end of the day and have staff, if they want to, try them out in the work parking lot and not have to come to an event across town during the weekend and take time away from family or whatever. So I'm really excited about doing some of these to raise awareness and get people to try biking, e-biking in particular. So my asks from you are, if there are workplaces that you work at or that you think would be a good candidate for bringing some bikes to for a demo, or people who you think might like to try them or whatever else, I think people like them a lot when they try them, but outreach is tricky, and I'm doing my best to never have them in my laundry room, which is very full. So any suggestions, feedback, if you all want to try and borrow one of the bikes, I would be happy to get them out of my house whenever possible. That's all.
That's awesome. And that's so smart to work with employers. Employers actually have a lot of clout when it comes to improving infrastructure or improving bike safety, bike parking requirements and that kind of thing. So two birds with one stone, you know, with that one for sure. Okay, Michael, I saw you had your hand raised next.
Yes, I got in contact with the county about the new car wash that's over by Kroger, up by Lowe's. And they're actually putting in a 10-foot multi-purpose path on Woodbrook Drive and a 14-foot multi-purpose path on the 29 side. Not sure what they're actually connecting to on 29, but I think the one on the Woodbrook is going to connect to the sidewalk that goes past Kroger up to Berkmar Place. So that's some really good news that they're putting some infrastructure in. It's limited, not sure where it's connecting, but it's the good news. So, and I'm still, I'm waiting to hear from Albrecht. I'm working on a path from Woodbrook, so he's working on a grant. So waiting to hear about that. So thank you.
Awesome. I was gonna, I see the Albert's here and also Jessica. Any color to add to what Michael said or any other updates?
I just heard back from the vice principal of Woodbrook last Friday with information that we need for the grant, so I can start putting that into the application and start working on that more. Hopefully they'll finish it, because I think it's due like September 29th, I want to say, which is pretty soon, considering also a lot of other stuff going on. So hopefully I'll be able to get it this round. Otherwise, I think the next rolling application deadline is beginning of March, but don't have to double check that. But yeah, that's what I have so far.
Excellent. Okay, Robin. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jessica. I see you must have unmuted. What's that?
Just real quick, I'll add to what Alberic mentioned about Safe versus School. So we are looking at a lot of grant opportunities right now. Again, this is Albemarle County. The bipartisan infrastructure law had created a whole bunch of new funding opportunities for transportation. So we're just trying to wrap our heads around all these new opportunities that are available and pursuing the right options for the county. So just that would be our main update. Thanks, Peter.
That's a very good one and a most welcome update. Okay, Robin, I see you have your hand raised. You're muted, Robin.
This is my EV bike. Can you see it? It's in my house because there are no safety places, like the parking lot garage, for instance, doesn't have a person to see if somebody's going to come and steal your bike, which they're doing. There are no, that's what I'm asking for, like sort of places that when we do park our bikes, there is a camera or something where we can safely do that at City Hall or, you know, around where we're driving. That's the biggest issue with these bikes. And then secondly, Greenbrier Trail that you were discussing, that's in the sights of the Botanical Garden volunteers. And so you might want to link with the Botanical Gardens of Piedmont volunteers for more information about the Greenbrier area, because I know they were talking about it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Robin actually raised a point that really connects to what the Livable Seville people were talking about. So the rezoning, the city's zoning code is really the most powerful tool we have to incentivize or even require parking, like protected indoor parking for e-bikes would be mentioned in the zoning code. So that's being written in the fall, and there'll be comments about it. I'll do a whole bunch of advocacy around that, but look to the beginning of the year for opportunity to comment on the Charlottesville zoning.
Thank you.
Yeah, Albemarle is also doing a zoning code. They're doing it a little bit different way, and they haven't started at that granular level, but I'll let you know about that as well. And
Peter, I'm just going to jump in since nobody else has the hand up and just build on that point. I do think in terms of, and maybe there's been discussions on this group or with the BPAC, you know, that it would be really powerful if we can find an employer, like a restaurant or a business in town to convert some parking to more bike parking, car parking to bike parking, right? You know, and I think that Robin's bringing up a great point, which is that with e-bikes in particular, like have a little bit more, it's a little bit harder sometimes to find the place to park a larger bike. And we really have pretty crappy bike lock opportunities and infrastructure. Related, right, to just like we have opportunities to have better bus stops, right? These are those little details that really start to add friction to doing things other than being in the car. So I just think that's also something that would love to see, you know, more practical advocacy around, and also getting some adopters, and then really being able to publicize that, you know, hey, when you have a bike friendly place, your business goes up.
Yes, thank you. So any other volunteers? Still not seeing any hands raised. I did want to call on a few folks, and if you're like in the middle of a sandwich or something, just don't answer, feel free. I was wondering though, if Latricia, you might have any updates. What Stephen was talking about got me thinking about like the Better Business Challenge, and yeah, like how do we really, you know, encourage local businesses or employers to contribute?
Hey, Peter, how are you doing?
Good. Thank you for getting on the spot. I'm sorry to call you out like that.
No worries. And that is something that I guess I can talk more with Coles, who does our corporate sustainability here at C3. Because as you know, I'm more of the residential side. And so for me, it's just going to be more of like also being in those spaces, trying to figure out some of the best ways and solutions that we can kind of reach out. But definitely, like you said, employer route is the way to go, because I know that for even some of the things that we've been doing with our energy equity campaigns, that's kind of the way that we've shifted into talking to more employers as offering solutions for their employees as a whole in energy equity area. So I think that, and I'll make sure to bring that up with Coles. So I am going to bring that up in our next meeting for sure. I wasn't really going to say anything because tomorrow's the deadline, but we have our Climate Justice Ambassadors program that we are seeking applications through tomorrow for our first cohort. Our focus will be on transportation, and we are looking to start the program September 10th. So literally, I'm going to be going through and interviewing applicants over the next few days to try to have selections made and ready. And this is a paid volunteer position that we are seeking community members from some targeted neighborhoods specifically, but it is open to all community members. So we are trying to be intentional about where we are making sure that we're inviting all community to the table, but particularly those communities that have, of course, not have always been invited to the table sometimes. So we're really excited about that. So like I said, if you do have anybody that you want to send our way, I can send do you already have it, Peter? Or I can drop the form.
Put it in at least in the chat or in the meeting notes.
I'll drop the information in the notes, and then I'll put it in the chat as well. And then I will also say, of course, just some youth leadership updates from our end. We have been working with PHA for the past few months with our youth doing the JEDI Youth Ambassador Program and JEDI and Climate Justice Ambassadors. So we are helping the teens to get to City Council. So if you definitely want to show your support, they actually have been doing their own survey that they've put together with the help of both the TD, and I get Lucinda, I'm sorry, because it's a mouthful. So I'm just gonna say working with Lucinda and her group, the teams have had an opportunity, and also they've looked at the survey that we are putting together here at C3 as well, and they've kind of combined the two to kind of get their own results. So they'll be going to City Council on September 6th. So like I said, you want to support youth talking about transit issues and climate, that is an opportunity to support some of our local young people with that. But that has been pretty much the long-going project that I've been working with this summer with our youth. And we are also working on our own youth internship with our interns that will be starting in September. So we are definitely working around issues of transportation and helping our young people understand, and also, of course, community members with our Climate Justice Ambassador program. So that's pretty much the updates that I have right now. I'm sure there'll be more to come, but definitely reach out and I'll make sure to put all of that information as listed. So thank y'all.
Thanks, Latricia. Now, I think you kind of answered my question, but the community climate ambassadors are all ages, right? They're not youth ambassadors, is that correct?
It is separate. The Climate Justice Ambassadors is open to all community members 14 years or older, and we will be paying up to $500 for basically working the months September through November. They will be doing canvassing activities through the targeted neighborhoods, but we'll also be looking at doing tabling events, but also just talking to community members about basic things. They'll be getting kind of a full education on climate justice, what that entails, but we'll be talking about, of course, some of the other pieces that are important, the intersections that we have, but mainly focused around transportation. So we'll be, of course, talking about land use. Of course, we'll be talking about how to survey, because their main goal is going to be canvassing, but this is just the opportunity, like I said, to engage our community members, because we all know that this conversation around climate takes us all. And it's, I don't know, it's good if we can just get regular people that, you know, I work here at C3 and that's my 9 to 5. And it's also a passion that I would have if I didn't have this opportunity. So at least we're able to provide a small economic relief for people's time, but also trying to make sure that, you know, they have that passion and they can convince others. That's what it's going to take, these deep conversations, showing up at your doorstep and actually having time to talk with one another and find out who is our neighbor in our community and how we can all benefit one another. So that's what we're hoping this program will do, and it'll be separate from our regular youth.
Peter, I also just dropped in the chat because Latricia forgot to mention they've got a big event coming up, a 5th year birthday party.
We do, and I'll also thank you for dropping that, and don't tell them I forgot, but thank you for putting that information as well.
You forgot nothing. Okay. I see, Robin, you have your hand raised, but before I call upon you, I do see that there are a couple of people who have not been to any of these meetings before. And I wanted to give them the floor to at least introduce themselves and say anything else you'd like to say. If you don't want to, that's fine too. But the channel is open for that. All right, so hearing, not hearing any yet. Robin, what have you got to share? You're muted.
It's really about Latricia is amazing for C3. What I'm trying to say is what they do is they connect with the community through the arts too. They did this fabulous mural and brought the community awareness to the climate action groups and so forth. So, you know, the XR Park is trying to do that, all these different, but it's almost seems like a separate entity. But when Latricia was there, you know, it was an amazing, it's always been an amazing event. She brings in other people, vendors and that sort of thing. And I'm thinking that is a great way to inspire people, not just, you know, bringing the bikes to the businesses, but to actually have events, art events. And the bridge right now has a new director. His name is Jay Simple. I met him and talked with him. He's from Philadelphia. He's from the mural capital of the world. and he's only been here about 2 weeks, and he needs to be connected because he wants to connect. I mean, I find like Charlottesville's kind of like everybody in their own pocket, but the arch and the bridge right now is a great way to get climate C3 and everybody together. Okay, bye.
That's perfect. And also Robin practices what she preaches. Nobody, I think, combines art and transportation as well as Robin does. She, you know, has decorated buses, she's decorated streets, and you know, lives